Is not great. It's like half, really, 33 passes per 90. But I wanted to look at forward passes per 90. Top 5 Manchester United midfielders ranked by forward passes so far this season per 90. Casemiro is number 1 with 19.4 forward passes per 90 and a 73% success rate. Eriksen is second with 18.3, and then Bruno is third with 13.7, and then you've got Fred on 12 and McTominay on 9.2. But the interesting thing there is it's not to flag up a failure on anybody else. It's just to sort of expose again what we're talking about what Casemiro brings to that team. Yes, he's a better centre defensive midfielder than anybody we've got, the way he protects and tackles. But on the ball, he's bloody fantastic. Like he has the ball as much as bloody Eriksen. Now, that is just going to make a massive amount of difference to our possession stats. And it's interesting that in the 2 games that he started, and I know one of them was against a team from Cyprus, but our possession stats have been very good in the 2 games that he's played. So I'm really interested going into the Newcastle game to see if we can keep that possession going, because the midfield is where this game, again, and so many games are going to be won and lost. Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle is a danger man. I want to go through some danger men for Newcastle in a minute, but that midfield for Newcastle has been a massive part of their success. Now, people talk about stats. I remember looking about last December about midfielders, and the system I use, I whacked in a load of things I'd like in a midfielder, got them to rank them across the midfield, across Europe, and Bruno Guimaraes, who was playing in France at the time, came out on top. And I thought, you know what, someone's going to buy him, and it'd be very interesting to see what happens. Newcastle bought him, and he's been a revelation. So sometimes the stats don't lie, do they? But they've also got potentially Joel Linton in there, who will, I always call him Joel Linton like his name's Joel. Joel Linton is, it's all one word, isn't it? He's very, I mean, Eddie Howe's done a great job with him, and he's done a great job himself. Energy in that midfield, power in that midfield again. And then you've got probably Longstaff will play in there with them maybe. But our midfield for me would be Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. I know we've spent time talking about Bruno. There is no alternative. I think some people just don't understand constructive criticism as well. I mean, we are shit. Manchester United is shit. Can I just say that? We are shit. But where we should be, we are shit. We've not been in a title race for 10 years. We've not won a trophy for 5 years. We are nowhere near where we need to be. So if some fan can't have constructive criticism, I don't really think you understand where Manchester United should be. If we can't have constructive chats about where we think weaknesses might be in this team, then let's pack up and go home. Because the reason I have those chats is because we are not where we should be. So I have a standard up here, and I can't sit and watch things and go, oh, it's fine. I've always wanted to finish 5th again anyway. We've got to aim for the stars, and so therefore the conversation we have about certain players I think is very, very, very useful. But of course Bruno plays in this game for me because he's a very important player, and I don't think people are listening to the criticism. I'm not really hearing people say sell Bruno Fernandes and never pick him again. I'm just hearing and seeing with my own eyes that he's not the player he should be. He needs to do better. He can do better. He could be man of the match against Newcastle. He could score 2 goals. I feel that's there. Clip it up. I feel it's there. I feel there's going to be a moment in the next few games where we go, that's the Bruno we want to see. I don't think he's a million miles off, but he's not there yet. And therefore, I think it's actually respectful to Bruno to be saying, I don't think he's anywhere near the player he should be at the moment. But people say that that's hate. People say that that's negativity. Negativity would be to say he's a bag of crap, we never should have bought him, he's a waste of money, get out of my club. That's not what I or many other people are saying. In fact, I'm a big fan of Bruno Fernandes, but I'm telling you now, That's not the player I think he is. I think he's a lot better than that. But in this game, absolutely would start him. Can't really see an alternative. I'm not bringing Fred into the team. McTominay's not even available. Donny van de Beek's not fit, and I'm not going to play a youth player. So look, it's Bruno, Eriksen, and Casemiro. That's the way we should go. I mean, you could put Sancho in there. That's not going to happen because Sancho's obviously the alternative to Rashford. I would start with Rashford in this game. Ronaldo's got to play through the middle. Hopefully Martial will be on the bench and Antony off the right. And I think that's the way we go. And it's pretty much the team that got us the result against Everton anyway. So, but Newcastle are dangerous. I feel that this game will be very, very tight. I'd like to think we'll score first, but even that, I don't think it makes a massive amount of difference. I think Eddie Howe's doing a great job at Newcastle. We talk about owners. We talk about how we would like the Glazers to leave. And you look at Newcastle and you go, look, some people said they didn't want those owners at Manchester United because of various reasons. In relation to the way they're being run as a football club, I think they're doing pretty well. You know, Eddie Howe probably wasn't the manager expecting them to get. People like Chris Wood and Botman were not really and Bruno Guimaraes were not really the sort of players I thought they would get. They're very clever signings that are just going to help them, one, stay up and then progress through the Premier League. They're not in a mad race to win the league in the next 2 years or get in the Champions League this year. They're about steady growth, sustainable growth, and I think that they're doing a very, very good job and they're reaping the benefits from it. The thing about Newcastle is when they do get Champions League football, it's over because then they can say to the Mbappes and everybody else of this world, there's the money, here's the platform, we're in the Champions League, come and make us great. So if Newcastle keep progressing and they get in the Champions League, it's over because they're the richest club in the world. But they're not there yet. It's a game we should be looking to win. It's a game I think we will win. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Manchester United win. That's my prediction, and I think we have to win because I think I'll look at the next 3 games of Newcastle at home, Spurs at home, and then Chelsea away. If we're really serious about having a good season, you've got to start accumulating the points. I think Liverpool's big problem is they haven't accumulated the points, and it's not the sort of season where you can really make up ground. There's so many games, there's so many gaps, it's relentless. You want to get the points on the board, and that's what we need to do over the next few games. And also, we're playing teams that really fancy a go at us. Spurs and Chelsea will want to finish above us. Newcastle will want to get near us. So we're not only, it's not like you're playing Fulham, Bournemouth and Forest. You're playing 3 teams very close to you. So they have a big impact if you can take the results. And I think we've got to take 7 points. 7 points I'll be over the moon with. Anything less than that, and you've probably lost the game, and that's not a good look. So I think we will beat Newcastle, but I don't think it's going to be straightforward. I think Newcastle will be very, very well organised. I think they'll be very good on the break. Callum Wilson is fit. I thought he wasn't fit. Isaac's not fit. St Maximum is back. Almiron's playing very well at the moment. They're mobile. They're capable of creating chances. They do score good goals. Bruno Guimaraes is fantastic at the moment. But look at their centre-backs as well. I think Botman is a very good signing, as many of you would know. He's a name that's been mentioned for quite a while across Europe. They've gone and got him. He's very, very good. They've got Trippier at right back, of course, as well. Nick Pope in goal. They're a solid team. And again, I mean, I think they're better than Everton. And we said last week beating Everton would be a big result. And I think if we beat Newcastle at home on Sunday, it will be a positive result. There won't be much time to dwell on it because then it's Spurs at home and we're looking at that. But I think it's going to be a really, really exciting couple of games. And of course, we've got to be very wary that we don't fall into the trap of losing one of these games at home, because I do think United, the very nature of United at the moment, and you'll feel it like I feel it, is that you just never know what's going to happen. You have the Manchester Derby game and you go, oh my God. Then you beat Everton and you go, that's positive. And then, to be honest, the game on Thursday night left you a little bit concerned again. Just don't know what you're going to get with United. And I think we're absolutely craving some consistency. And it's interesting what Erik Ten Hag actually said, because he spoke about some of the issues that had befell Manchester United on Thursday night, and he said, look, Rashford does need to be more clinical. I think he said the whole team needs to be more clinical, but Marcus knows that it just wasn't his night. But you've got to look at the positives and you've got to look at the chances, and I think that's just clever management there. If I'm talking to Marcus Rashford or any player after Thursday night, of course, there's more than enough reason there for fans to have a few things to say about it. But as a manager, I'd be saying to someone like Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes and Anthony and everyone else like that, look, the chances are there. if it was 0-0 and we'd scored in the last minute and created nothing, I'd be more frustrated than I am where we've created 30 chances. I think we could create better chances. I think sometimes, certainly the finishing wasn't good enough, but I personally always say this about Darwin Núñez. I'm convinced that Darwin Núñez will be a success at Liverpool. I don't want him to be, but I think he will be, because having watched him at Benfica last season when we were looking at him, he's a chance magnet. And look at Rashford yesterday. Ronaldo got no chances. Anthony got chances. Rashford got chances. In a United team, you will get chances as the wide forward. It's the number 9 where you're in the graveyard shift. And Rashford had a lot of chances yesterday. So if he can get another couple of chances at the weekend, I think he's a good finisher. So look, as I said this morning, we just got to move on from the Europa League. We've got 3 Premier League games, 9 points to play for, and a real chance to get ourselves firmly in the race for top 4, which, as I say, I don't think we're going to get top 4. So what an opportunity it is to go and do that. And I think we will win on Sunday. And then it's on to the next one. It's going to be a very interesting week. And, I was just to bring a bit of clarity to what I'm saying here, you might have seen that Reece James is looking unlikely to go to the World Cup. I'm not talking about that because he'll miss the Man United game in a week's time. I think he's a fantastic player, but it just shows you that we are going to see a lot of this over the few weeks. The World Cup is a terrible timing, but because of the World Cup, we're almost repeating the COVID mistake a couple of years ago, where we're demanding these players to play 3 competitive games a week for weeks. And we're about to go into a period of time now where we're doing that, and I think we're going to pick up injuries, and that is going... I think this season, unless you're going to delve into the January transfer market, which we don't know whether United will, I think our season, if we're absolutely honest, is going to be dictated to by how lucky or unlucky we are with injuries. And if you look at it already, Martial's been injured a lot, Rashford's had an injury, Maguire's injured, Donny's injured, Wan-Bissaka's injured. So we already don't have a great platform to go into a season that's going to be very hard and relentless and say we need to be lucky with injuries. And we do. This week we need to be able to pick the same team every game. And can we do that? Will we be in a position to do that? Because the games, Newcastle's hard, Spurs is harder, and then Chelsea's harder than that. So the platform's there. You've got to go out and you've got to go and deliver. One thing Ten Hag was asked was what's his strongest midfield? And I thought he answered this quite politically, because it's very, very obvious to me that our strongest midfield is Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. I mean, Casemiro is the best tackler, Bruno is the best passer, Eriksen is the best passer, and Bruno is the best creator. So you've got the balance there. And Ten Hag said it's about finding the right balance. But, politically answered it by saying it's difficult to say, I need more time to assess. He even said that Fred played well, but you need a squad. And that's just very clever management, because if he came out and said, well, clearly my best midfield is Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno because they're a lot better than anything else I've got, that doesn't do anything for the, passion merchants or Duracell bunnies of Fred and McTominay, who we've always described them as that. Wherever they're lacking in talent, they're not lacking in reliability and energy, and you don't want to diminish that. And I don't think Fred played particularly well on Thursday night, but it's interesting that Ten Hag always talks about his ability to press high up the pitch, and he always champions Scott McTominay as well. But they're very important squad players. It's funny how, I've said many a time I wouldn't sell Fred and McTominay, not right now, maybe next summer, but not right now, because I think they're valuable bench players. They're quintessential bench players, really. I mean, we only probably need one of them. I'd rather have another. We don't need Fred and McTominay, because they're both quite limited in certain areas, but they do give you a lot of energy. I think we only need one of them. I would sell one of them next summer and bring in a more creative type midfielder, but right here, right now, they're very important. And when you need to rotate, or you need someone for the last 20 minutes for a certain job, they're very important. But look, everybody knows the best midfield 3 is Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. I think it's a shame that Donny can't get into that conversation, but he's not in that conversation at the moment, so we are where we are, and that's why I would start Bruno Fernandes. And as I said, and I'll repeat myself, I think that, I don't think Bruno's playing anywhere near his potential at the moment. I think he's doing okay, but I'd start him in this game, because I think if Bruno can play to his potential, I mean, look, Bruno's potential is being back compared with Kevin De Bruyne again. It seems like a long time ago, but that was happening for about a year. Bruno was being compared to Kevin De Bruyne. That's the standard he set. He's not there at the moment. That's why I'm a bit critical of him. But, you know, 3 games to not prove people wrong, but to get yourself back. That's what we need from him. And we've not even spoken about Cristiano Ronaldo. I think Cristiano Ronaldo in this game is very interesting. I don't really think he had a lot going on against in the Europa League, but he was good against Everton, and I don't think he played bad in the Europa League, but the service wasn't there. Let's see what we can do in a game like this, and I hope we've got Martial back as well. But I fancy us to win 2-0, and again, we're back into that stage where every game, and Ten Hag says this, you've got to take it a game at a time. Got to focus on Newcastle, got to get the result, and then you've got a couple of days to focus on Spurs, which is a big game, and then a couple of games. It's a relentless week. But it's relentless for everybody. Everybody's in the same boat. So I'm not worried about, you know, we've got a harder task than anybody, but what are 3 games? What are 9 points? And as I say, if you come out of that with 7, happy days, really happy days. But you know there's going to be twists and turns. You know there's going to be decisions and, you know, fatigue and, you know, all sorts of stuff. You know, life as a Man United fan never runs smoothly. We're not Man City who would just look at those 3 games and go, well, I'll rotate here, and we'll take 9 points. It's going to be challenging, but I think it's going to be very exciting as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm looking forward to it, and I fancy Manchester United to win 2-0. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Bit of a mix-up on what we've been doing today because we had the video of Erik Ten Hag's press conference, which you can check out.
Hi Eric. I think the top scorers at the moment have got 3 goals. I think it's Anthony and Marcus. Are you confident?
Hi everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss a potential bid for João Felix. Also, Paul Scholes thinks we could be the best of the rest and push Man City not to the title but be second place. Are we good enough for that? He feels we've got the squad. Lots to discuss about that as well. We'll also be talking about the number 10 debate. Some people think Bruno played well last night. Some people think he didn't. Jadon Sancho's recovery is here now, about to kick on and start playing well. Ten Hag's response to the result yesterday as well. Lots to get into. And this bid for João Felix, a little bit about Gakpo as well. So we've got quite a varied show for you today. And what I want to say from the off is, I said it last night, I don't really want to talk about last night's performance. Like, we've got Newcastle on Sunday, we've got Spurs on Wednesday, and we've got Chelsea the following Saturday. There is no Europa League in our conversation for a week and a half. We're now about the Premier League, 9 points up for grabs. Whatever happened last night won't matter if we go and win the next 3 games, and I think that has to be the focus. I think last night's just one of those results you file it off. Well done to McTominay for getting the winner at the end. We had lots of chances. I personally don't think it was a game where you just go, we had loads of chances. Their goalkeeper was brilliant. I watched it back again this morning, the highlights. I don't think the finishing was good enough. I think all of the shots he saved were savable. I think De Gea saves them all. I think Ederson saves them all. I don't think he pulled off a save that was like, oh my God, that's a worldie. I think the finishing was poor. So we've got to look at that. But look, the big thing I want to talk about is Bruno. I find it really weird. I thought we'd stepped away from this, and in a way I'm not going to get dragged into it. So I'm just going to say what I think, but I'm also going to refer to you. We do something called player ratings. So on our website, in the last 20 minutes of every game when we're doing a watch along, we'll say go to unitedstand.com, player ratings, mark every player out of 10, 6 being average, star for your man of the match. So look, I said yesterday that for me, Bruno Fernandes, who is a player I like, who is, and I find this hilarious, I find this absolutely hilarious that I apparently don't like Bruno Fernandes. I mean, it just really falls into the category of idiotism who just don't watch the channel and think it's something that it's not. You know, we absolutely want this club to do well. We absolutely want these players to do well. I mean, I remember being gutted when we didn't buy Bruno Fernandes in that summer. I'm Mallorca looking at the boat sinking behind me. So Bruno Fernandes is a player I really rate. But like Anthony Martial, like Marcus Rashford, like any player I like, if they perform badly, the shirt matters more than the individual. And I'm sorry, I don't think Bruno Fernandes has been anywhere near good enough for arguably 6 months, maybe longer. So, you know what? If that's having a hate campaign, then look, call me a hater, but I genuinely disagree with that. I think it's just using your eyes. And of course, other people have different opinions. But let me just go back over the last few games where you've done the player ratings. These are not my scores. Bruno Fernandes last night, 4.3, voted for by thousands of you. Bruno Fernandes against Everton, 6, average. Bruno Fernandes against Ammonia in Cyprus a week ago, 4.8. Bruno Fernandes against Manchester City, 2.6. Bruno Fernandes against Sheriff, 6.2. Bruno Fernandes against Arsenal, 8. So in his last 6 games, he's average. He's average. And look, in no way am I or anybody else saying that Bruno should be sold or got rid of. But in every way, I'm not going to sit here and admit he's playing well. I don't think he is playing well. I really do not think you can sit there and say that Bruno Fernandes is fulfilling his talent. And that's the most important thing. We sit here week after week moaning about Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Paul Pogba over the years. And now we can't have an open debate about a number 10 that seems to play every minute and actually frustrates many fans with his inability to play against the low block. That's the problem with Bruno. If at the weekends we play Newcastle and they attack us, I think he's absolutely one of the best number 10s in the league. He is brilliant at picking the ball up, looking up and knocking a ball over the top for someone quick to run onto. That's his game. But patience, he hasn't got any. He hasn't got any patience. I guarantee if he's in Tesco and there's a big queue, he throws his basket on the floor and storms out, goes to Lidl. Like, he has got no patience against the low block, and it comes across every single time. Now, people will say, oh yeah, but yesterday he created a few chances. He's the number 10 in a Manchester United shirt against a very bad side. Nobody's saying he's dreadful. Well, maybe some people are. I mean, Ricky messaged me and said he was dreadful, but I'm not saying he's dreadful. I don't think he was good last night, but he's got to be better. He's got to be a lot better. I said last night there was a time 18 months ago when he was being compared to De Bruyne. Nobody's doing that anymore. So don't tell me that Bruno's not fell off. He has fell off, and it's up to him and Erik ten Hag to get more out of him. I firmly believe there's a player there. I remember some of you in the summer saying Bruno's finished under Ten Hag. He'll give him a chance, but he's finished. He's not patient enough on the ball. He's too wasteful on the ball, and he will frustrate Ten Hag eventually. Maybe that Fernandes is a very talented player, a very intelligent player, and he can adapt to how Erik ten Hag wants him to play. But at the moment, look, I think the jury is out. I really do. People say Bruno needs dropping, and I agree. The problem is we can't really bench him for somebody else, and that's the big thing, Elliot. I will say something right now. If Donny van de Beek was fit, I think Bruno would be on the bench. I can't prove it, but I know how Donny van de Beek played for Ajax under Ten Hag, and I know what we need. And what we need in that number 10 position is basically something that people don't probably like, but it's basically a magnet. It's somebody who gets the ball, lays it off and moves. Gets the ball, lays it off and moves. That's what we need. Simplicity. Odegaard's brilliant at it for Arsenal. He gets the ball, he lays it off and he moves. Bruno gets the ball, has a look around, tries a little chip, tries a little 40-yard pass, tries a shot, tries and makes things happen very, very quickly, very impatiently. And I guarantee you, if Donny van de Beek was fit, he would have been given opportunities and Bruno would have played less games. Because what Donny van de Beek will do, he's not as easy on the eye as Bruno, but he'll get the ball, lay it off and move. Get the ball, lay it off and move. And I think that's what we're crying out for. Because look at Sancho yesterday when he came on. And this is what we're talking about. I'm not talking about selling Bruno. I'm not talking about kicking him out of the team. I'm talking about a little bit of. He needs a little bit of what Ten Hag has given to Luke Shaw, what he's given to Sancho, what he's given to McTominay, what he's given to Maguire, what he's given to Lindelof. He needs taken out the team for not performing and sitting on the bench, and then come back into the team and perform well. Look at Sancho yesterday. Mentality was really good, made a big difference. Look at Luke Shaw when he took his place back from Malacia. I'm sure, McTominay came on with a good attitude yesterday. I'm sure we'll see it from Maguire when he comes back. Look, this is what I'm talking about with Bruno. He's playing every minute of every bloody game, and nothing's changing really. He's averaging around an average performance, and I think that's not good enough. So these people who are saying, oh, stop having a go at Bruno, he's creating chances. Is he really doing any better than average? And I go back through the last few performances. Even this season, very rarely have we been giving Bruno better than average. And he is our number 10. He needs to be the conductor. He needs to be the player that is running the game. And at the moment, I just don't think he is. Yes, he can do. but he needs to do a lot better. And as I said, I think if Donny van de Beek was fit, there would be an opportunity there for Erik ten Hag to bench him. But at the moment, he doesn't really have anybody else, which is why I said last night on social media, would you not think about trying Jadon Sancho there? And you know, it was met with some ridicule. But I mean, at least Jadon Sancho, again, he's a pass and move player. He gets the ball, he lays it off, he moves. I watched the game last night and I was just like, there's so little movement off the ball. It's all about taking too many players on or trying the impossible pass or shooting from distance. A lot of that was like that yesterday, and I think we'll see a response against Newcastle, and I'm sure Bruno will start. And I for one hope Bruno will play well, but I'm not going to sit here and say that what he's doing at the moment is good enough and it's not an issue, because it is. It definitely is. You cannot get on the back of Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, every other player, David De Gea, Cristiano Ronaldo, all these players that constantly get, scrutinised, quite rightly, and then Bruno's fine to just keep chucking in average performances. And I'm not saying they're terrible. There has been some terrible performances, but search your heart, search your soul. You know that Bruno has not been performing better than average for 6 months. Ever since he got that new contract, he's had a few really bad performances and a few okay performances. We are not getting consistent Bruno. And when we bought him, he was ridiculously consistent. And that's the question I would be asking Erik ten Hag of Bruno. Where's that Bruno gone from the first year? Because you're not a player that can get figured out. It's not like you're a winger with one skill move and they figured it out. You're not that type of player. What's happened to your game in the last year or so? Where is your form gone? Because you are ridiculously sporadic. And look, if you know your research about Ajax and Erik ten Hag, that position has to be Mr. Consistent. Your pass completions, your rotation of the ball. As I say, Bruno's not playing badly, but I do think that if we had somebody else, i.e. a Donny, I think he would have been put on the bench like everybody else has been, just to give him a bit of boot up the arse. I think that's needed, but at the moment we don't really have anyone. Charlie says the problem is not Bruno, he's isolated because our wing-backs offer absolutely nothing going forward. Charlie, I mean, I'm always a promoter of people watching football, but I don't know where you're pulling that out of. It's a bit like the one yesterday about Ronaldo's not making any movement when he's not getting any service anyway. I don't see that. I don't think Bruno is struggling because our wing-backs don't overlap. I don't see any correlation between that at all. I think Bruno gets plenty of the ball and his problem is he's impatient. You see it all the time. I can see Bruno on the ball now. He's looking up. He's looking to do that little dinky ball 40 yards forward. He's not patient enough. I hate to say this, but if I was Bruno Fernandes, I'd take a long look at what Odegaard's doing at Arsenal and just try and simplify my game. It's just, we spoke about it in the summer. He needs to simplify his game. Bruno gives the ball away a lot. Don't give the ball away a lot. More patient. But the whole team is embarrassing that against the low block, we do struggle. We panic. We're not patient, and we need to be more patient because it just doesn't look right. That front three yesterday of Ronaldo, Rashford and Anthony, it didn't look right. It didn't look fluid. I go back to Greenwood, Martial and Rashford a few years ago, and that was a front three where you went, that's actually quite fluid. They actually they look like they work well together. Now, obviously, we can't replicate that anymore. But Rashford, Ronaldo, Anthony and Bruno, it didn't look like it was in symmetry. It didn't look like they were on the same wavelength. And that might have to come from time. But I suppose the question is, longer term, do you start moving into the transfer market? I mean, AS from Spain was saying today that Manchester United had a bid of 130 million euros rejected for João Felix from Atletico Madrid. I remember that story. What would be the logic behind that, though? I mean, if we did bid for João Felix, and look, the reason I mention this is because one, it's in the news, but two, if we'd bought João Felix, Bruno would be on the bench for me because Bruno is basically playing as a support striker as well. I don't like the way we use Bruno, and where I would say this probably isn't his fault, and it's been happening under the last three managers. How many times do you see Bruno right next to the centre forward? It's almost like a 4-4-2 at times. I want to see the number 10 like Odegaard and De Bruyne. I want to see them part of a midfield three. I want to see him a little bit deeper, getting involved. I don't like how he spends so much time close to the striker. But if we had bought João Felix, well, he is a supplement striker. That's where he would play. I don't dispute that we might have put a bid in for João Felix, but I don't know where that money was coming from. And I would say that if we were bidding for João Felix, we probably wouldn't have bought Anthony. So I do remember his apparently bidding for João Felix. It was in that chaotic last couple of weeks of the transfer window. I think Casemiro was always going to happen, but if we had got João Felix, I don't think we would have got Anthony. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd rather get Anthony because we need a left-footed winger. But I do remember his being linked to João Felix, and they're saying that apparently it got rejected. I mean, if we'd got João Felix, Anthony and Casemiro, happy days, but I don't think that was ever going to happen. But, you know, that the way we're playing at the moment, João Felix would be a good option because Bruno is sort of playing as a support striker, and I don't think that's his position. You know, I actually think Bruno does most of his good work from deep. I think he's got a very good passing range. I think he's got a very good engine, and I think he is playing too close to the striker. I really do. I think he should be playing a little bit deeper, but maybe I don't know. I don't know why we do that. Morning, Mark. I would drop Bruno more deep and play Eriksen more up the pitch, says Mikael Roach. And there's a reason the low block works. If they'd had been drawn against Arsenal, maybe they would have opened up more. The low block is hard to break down. Many upsets are created by it. And Sayal says, Mark, I'm curious about your thoughts on Delo. He's been praised a lot, but he's incredibly sloppy on the ball. I mean, look, Bruno, 7 big chances created, 4 major chances, unfair, says Shane. Mate, this is the nonsense I've seen on social media today. Bruno played well because he created loads of chances. We were playing Cypriot farmers. I'm sorry, I know that's disrespectful, but what do you want? Do you want a medal because you created some chances against the poor side? Mate, De Bruyne would have created 10 chances in that game and scored a couple of goals. Don't come at me with Bruno. It's unfair to criticise Bruno because he created a handful of chances against the crap team. That was not a good performance by Bruno Fernandes yesterday. And if you think it was, God, my God, I just do not think he played well last night. And if you're telling me he created a few chances against, we should have been. Liverpool beat Rangers 7-1 at Ibrox. We beat Cypriot Anana FC. Ammonia FC with a late winner at home. We should be winning that game 6-7, 8-0. We didn't. I'm sorry if you look. I know. I'm sad about this. I'm sad about this. You know I am. Unfortunately, the world's not going to change. We are still going to have Player FC, and it's still going to infect the United fan base. We see it all the time, and unfortunately, you can't have a debate about a player that's not playing well. Because if people are a part of that fan club, they just don't want to listen. It's sad. It's a modern thing. It never really used to happen when I was growing up or even 10, 20 years ago, but it happens now. We saw it with Pogba. We've seen it with Martial. We're now seeing it with Bruno. You've seen it with Rashford. You'll see it with every player. Luke Shaw, everybody. Everyone's got a fan club, and that fan club does not want to listen to anything that's constructive. The reality is, Bruno Fernandes, and look, I've been doing this show for years, so I don't need to prove it because all the videos are there. I'm a big fan of Bruno Fernandes. I wanted to sign him. I'm a big fan of him. But I tell you what, when you're a big fan of something and you're honest, you can also be the most truthful. He is not performing to the level he should be. And if you're telling me that a conversation about Bruno Fernandes' recent form for the last 6 months is not relevant because he created a handful of chances last night, I'm sorry. That's your opinion. Go and enjoy it. I don't respect it. I do respect it, but I don't listen to it and I don't agree with it. He is not playing well. I don't do the player ratings. Thousands of you vote for the player ratings. He has not had higher than a 6 in his last 6 games. Since Arsenal, he's not had a higher than a 6. That's because he's not been better than a 6 over the last 6 games. He's got to be better. What's wrong with that? He's got to be better. Bruno Fernandes has got to do better.